peasants covered in filth, knights who haven't bathed in months, people with blackened teeth and disease everywhere. This is what Hollywood wants you to believe about medieval people. But here's the truth. Almost everything you think you know about medieval hygiene is completely wrong. Medieval people weren't just clean. They had hygiene practices that would put some modern people to shame. And I've got the historical receipts to prove it. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to see the Middle Ages in a completely different light. Let's dive in. Before we get into the secrets, let's address the elephant in the room. Where did this dirty medieval people myth even come from? Well, ironically, it came from religious writings. Some medieval saints, like Saint Bernard and Saint Hedwig of Silesia, deliberately avoided bathing as a form of self-denial and spiritual discipline. Kind of like fasting, but for cleanliness. But here's the thing. These were extreme examples. These saints were literally trying to deny themselves earthly pleasures as part of their religious practice. Using them to represent all medieval people is like saying nobody in 2024 takes showers because some people do extreme fasting challenges. The reality? Medieval people were obsessed with being clean. They wrote entire books about hygiene. They had beauty routines. They even had specific rules about when and how to wash your hands before meals. So let's bust these myths wide open with 5 hygiene secrets that prove Hollywood has been lying to you this whole time. Secret number 1. They invented soap and used it regularly. Here's a fact that might blow your mind. Soap is a medieval invention. That's right. The Romans, who everyone assumes were super clean, didn't actually have soap. They rubbed themselves with olive oil and scraped it off with little metal tools. Medieval people, they created actual soap. Medieval soap was made from animal fat and wood ash, which created lye. Sometimes they'd scent it with fresh herbs like sage, thyme, and rosemary. And yes, people made this soap at home. There were literally recipe books with different soap formulas that you could still make today. By the 9th century, soap was widely available as a trade good throughout Europe. You could buy it at markets. Soap making became such a big industry that by the 16th century, entire guilds were dedicated to it. The wealthy had access to premium Castile soap made from olive oil, the fancy stuff, but even regular peasants made and used their own soap for washing. And they didn't just use soap for laundry, they used it in baths, for washing hands, and for general cleanliness. Medieval advice books specifically told people to use soap when washing. So the next time someone tells you medieval people were dirty, remind them medieval people invented the soap you're probably using right now. Secret number 2. Public bathhouses were everywhere. All right, secret number 2 is going to shock you. Medieval people had public bathhouses everywhere, and they were absolutely thriving. By the 13th century, Paris alone had over 32 bathhouses. London's Southwark district had 18. Even small towns had their own bathhouses, often connected to the local bakery so they could use the excess heat from the ovens to warm the water. How genius is that? These weren't just places to get clean. They were like the medieval version of a spa day combined with your local pub. People would go to bathhouses to socialize, play games, eat, drink, and gossip with friends. In Paris, bathhouses even employed street criers who would walk around in the morning yelling, "The baths are hot!" to advertise that the water was ready. Imagine waking up to that instead of your alarm clock. These bathhouses offered everything. Large communal pools with hot water, steam baths, massages, haircuts, shaves, and even basic medical services like bloodletting and wound dressing. It was one-stop shopping for all your hygiene and healthcare needs. And get this, bath feasting was totally a thing. People would literally sit in the tub, eating meals and drinking wine while bathing. The ultimate multitasking. Bathhouses were regulated by law. In Paris, the bathhouse keepers had their own guild with strict rules. You couldn't heat baths on Sundays, you had to maintain cleanliness standards, and you absolutely could not exclude common people from using them. Now, were bathhouses sometimes associated with prostitution? Yes. Did the church occasionally condemn them for being too tempting? Also yes. But that was more about the social activities happening there, not the bathing itself. The point is, medieval people bathed regularly, and they had an entire infrastructure dedicated to keeping people clean. Secret number 3. They had surprisingly good dental hygiene. Here's where it gets really interesting. Medieval people had better teeth than you probably think. Archaeological analysis of medieval skeletons shows that most people actually had pretty healthy teeth. Why? Because they had almost no sugar in their diet. Sugar was a rare luxury that most people couldn't afford, so tooth decay wasn't the massive problem it became later. But medieval people didn't just rely on luck. They actively took care of their teeth. In the countryside, people used fresh hazel twigs as toothbrushes. You'd chew one end until it became brush-like, then scrub your teeth with it. When it wore out, you'd just flip it around or grab a new twig. City folks used pieces of linen cloth to wipe their teeth clean. And they had toothpaste. Well, tooth powder. Medieval tooth powders were made from abrasive materials mixed with herbs. Popular recipes included sage ground with salt crystals, powdered charcoal from rosemary stems, crushed pepper, mint, and rock salt, ground cloves, which, fun fact, is still used in dental treatments today because it's naturally antibacterial. For fresh breath, people would chew fennel seeds, parsley, or cloves. They also used mouthwashes made from wine or vinegar steeped with herbs and spices, especially mint, marjoram, and cinnamon. Medieval people considered healthy white teeth a sign of beauty, and sweet-smelling breath was considered a desirable trait. People literally wrote poems about it. So yeah, medieval people brushed their teeth, used toothpaste, had mouthwash, and chewed herbs for fresh breath. They were more on top of dental hygiene than some people today. Secret number 4, the linen underwear strategy. Okay, this one is genuinely brilliant. Medieval people had figured out something we've kind of forgotten. The secret to staying clean isn't washing your body constantly, it's changing your underwear. Medieval people wore full-body linen undergarments, shifts, chemises, braies, under all their clothes. This linen layer sat directly against their skin and absorbed all the sweat, oil, and dirt their bodies produced. Why linen? Because wool is heavy, hard to wash, and shrinks easily. Linen is lightweight, tough, absorbs sweat, gets softer over time, and most importantly, could be washed frequently without damage. Even the poorest peasants had at least one change of linen underwear. The wealthy had multiple sets they'd rotate through, and they changed these undergarments daily, or at least every other day. Here's where it gets wild. A medieval historian actually tested this method. He wore medieval-style linen underwear, changed it daily, and wiped himself down with a linen cloth at night, but didn't shower or bathe for an entire month. The result? He remained remarkably smell-free. His skin stayed in good condition. Better than usual, actually. He could have passed unnoticed in modern society. Then, a colleague tried it the opposite way. He showered daily with modern products, but wore the same linen shirt for months without washing it. The smell was overpowering, and he looked filthy. The takeaway? Medieval people understood something important. The clothes that touch your skin matter more than how often you wash your body. By keeping that linen layer fresh and clean, they could stay remarkably hygienic without constant bathing. Pretty smart, right? Secret number 5, they had deodorant and perfume. Last, but definitely not least, medieval people had deodorant. Yes, actual deodorant. One of the most popular medieval deodorant recipes came from Dioscorides, a Greek physician from the 1st century AD. His medical book, De Materia Medica, was a bestseller throughout the medieval period. Medieval deodorant was made from herbs, especially bay leaves, hyssop, and sage. You could rub these directly on your underarms or make them into powders and pastes. People also used perfumes and scented oils liberally. If you had money, you'd use imported perfumes. If you didn't, you'd make your own from local herbs and flowers. Even when people couldn't afford fancy soap, they'd scent their bath water with thyme, sage, or other aromatic herbs. The water itself became a kind of perfume. To keep clothes fresh, people stored them with sachets of lavender, rosemary, and other herbs. They'd hang clothes near smoky fires or in garderobes, medieval toilets, because even fleas didn't like those smells. Medieval people washed their hair with mixtures of ash and egg whites scented with flowers. They rubbed scented oils on their skin. They used fine-toothed combs to remove lice. The wealthy would even perfume their gloves and handkerchiefs so they could discreetly sniff something pleasant if they encountered a bad smell. Bottom line, medieval people cared deeply about smelling good, and they had a whole arsenal of natural products to make it happen. Conclusion. So there you have it. 5 medieval hygiene secrets that completely destroy the Hollywood myth of the dirty, disgusting Middle Ages. Let's recap. They invented soap and used it regularly. Public bathhouses were everywhere and hugely popular. They had dental hygiene routines with tooth powder and mouthwash. The linen underwear strategy kept them remarkably clean. They had deodorant, perfumes, and scented products. Were medieval people taking 3 showers a day with antibacterial body wash? No. Did they have the same level of hygiene we have today with modern plumbing and sanitation? Obviously not. But they were far from the filthy, disease-ridden savages Hollywood portrays. They bathed regularly, brushed their teeth, changed their underwear, used soap and deodorant, and had an entire culture built around staying clean. In fact, here's the real kicker. Medieval people were often cleaner than people in the Renaissance that followed. When syphilis hit Europe in the 1500s, public bathhouses shut down out of fear, and hygiene standards actually got worse for a couple centuries. So the next time you see a medieval movie where everyone's covered in grime and nobody's bathed in months, remember, Hollywood is selling you a lie. Medieval people knew the importance of hygiene, they valued cleanliness, and they'd probably be pretty impressed by some of the methods they invented that we still use today. If this video changed how you see the Middle Ages, smash that like button and subscribe for more medieval myth-busting. Drop a comment and let me know, what other medieval myths should I tackle next? And if you want to learn more about medieval daily life, check out these videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.